Hello everybody, welcome to the Good Life Meditation for today. I believe it's what is today? It's the 6th day of March 2018, and this is my daily activity of reminding myself of my objectives and principles, and I do this while I'm on my ride, my commute. Usually in the past I would do it on my commute to work. Lately I'm doing it on my commute home. I stop here at Starbucks at Green River to do my email, my personal email. And if you've sent me an email and I'm delayed in response, it's because I haven't been here for a while. This is really the only place I get to do my personal email. So I'm sorry for the delay. This is a perennial problem that I have keeping up with email. I know it sounds like the busy content creator's dilemma. Well, it's mostly because I'm just not good at canned answers. I don't want to sound like I'm flattering myself, but I really do. If people bother to send me an email, I want to respond to it, read it. I don't even like to read it beforehand. I want to open it, read it, and respond to it in one fell swoop, in a moment when I have time to do that, so I can give it the attention and consideration that each message deserves. So I was able to respond to just 2 emails just now, and I've got probably a dozen or so in there that are waiting, so apologize if you're one of those that still hasn't heard from me. You're in my queue. Okay, here we go. The Good Life Meditation. My 6 objectives. These are the things that I'm striving for, and I'm kind of enjoying doing this at the end of the day now, because it gives me a chance to reflect on my relative success or failure along those lines. Let me bring up my map app. Good. There we go. And there. Okay. My first objective is to always be ready to die. So if I crash right now, or my heart gives out, or I don't make it through the night, was today a good day for living? And I ask myself this in terms of various characteristics, and because I just finished work, I'll ask myself first about work. Did I do a good job at work? And I did. I really did a good job. Today was a great day at work. Yesterday was a phenomenal day at work. Getting so much done. I have a new process that I've been working over a year on, and it's like having developing a secret fighter, stunt plane in your airplane, your private little airplane hangar, and finally getting a chance to take it out and fly it. And that's what I did with my new process, and it's just flying so well. It's just, oh my gosh, it's exceeding my expectations. So I'm really happy about that. I think that's gonna help my organization in the project management role. And it's going to help, and I don't want to get too much into my own work, but I'm trying to find ways to make project management best practices easily accessible to even those that don't have a project management background. And I'm getting lots of opportunities to do that, lots of traction. So that was really good. Great day at work. And you can always tell a good day at work because I didn't take my breaks again. Just worked right through them. And even lunch, I barely took any time. So next was my personal stuff. Yeah, I think my relationships with my family are in good shape. We're in good shape. I should ask myself. I should ask my daughter more about that. My wife and I we have a pretty good things figured out, but I should ask her too. I should ask them. Maybe I'll do that tonight at dinner. Just say, how are things, guys? How are things? How do you feel about things? You guys have anything you need to talk about as a family, or with me in particular? You got any issues with me? I'd like to know about them. Remember Seinfeld? And George's dad for Festivus? Now we're going to do the airing of grievances. I have issues with all of you people. Sorry, tangent. Next is my artistic things. Really busy on that front. My gosh, I think I uploaded 3 videos yesterday. A Freeway Bible Study video, a Good Life video, and a Lost Japan's videos video. So, and was able to make some edits to my book as well, all before bedtime. Whoa, what was that? The bike felt a little loosey-goosey right there. Next number 2 objective is the Good and effective use of time. Yeah, I don't think I need to dwell on this one too much either. Today was clearly a good use of time. And, well, I don't need, I can be long-winded. It was just, yeah, it was a good use of time. And I'm working more and more on that. And also a good use of money, kind of expending that. I wonder if that has potential to be another principle. Good use of resources. Ooh, I like the sound of that. Could that be another principle? Or maybe just a single principle, good use of time and resources. I like that. Ooh. Let's see what happens with that. Next is number 3, the development and maintenance of good life principles and objectives. And that's what I'm doing now. Working on my 6 and 20. And the next is the cultivation of good emotional reactions. Just reacting well to the day, to the circumstances of the day. Yep, there was a good day for that too. Well, I didn't have too many things ambush me by surprise. I had one circumstance where I was working with an engineer who was just so smart and so good at doing the things that are done that I couldn't follow. I think I had the same dilemma yesterday, and I reacted well to that. I simply recognized my limit and tried to do the best I could to paddle along without getting frustrated. I'm not frustrated at the person in question, frustrated with myself that I couldn't keep up. Just part of my nature. I'm just my smarts don't fill in that part of the equation very well. Whatever smarts I have, I'm not very. Although I like logic, I'm not very mathematically, logically proficient. I wouldn't make such a good engineer. Better a poet than an engineer, maybe. I wonder if you could have a poetic engineer. Sure. Next is the performance of good actions, just doing good things through the day. I did the best I could with that. Didn't have too many opportunities to do that because I was holed up in my cube most of the day, but I did my best. I got my eyes open for more, looking around, more opportunity. Next is the recognition of true limits and true opportunity. And I usually try to pick something out and do that. Is there anything that's a limit right now? Well, like I said, my limit, well, I think I covered this yesterday, the same thing, my intellectual limits. There's some things I'm not very proficient at. Mathematics is one, logic is one, even though I love logic and I like to think of myself as an empirical human being. I struggle to see, where all the parameters, the premise A, premise B, conclusion C, whatever. So the opportunity is to practice, to recognize, look at logical arguments and practice understanding them, and also identify logical fallacies, which are the weaknesses in those things. Weak arguments. Yeah. Next, principle of number 6, the atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, flowing and changing and forever transforming. And so do you and I. Number 7, the principle of nature. Everything in the universe has some nature. The nature of that river over there, see it reflection off the water? The nature of that river is to flow downhill towards the deeper into the gravity well, and to carry along with it sediments, and to have the quality of being wet, and to periodically flood, and to be a habitat for aquatic animals and insects, fish, insects, things like that, and also waterfowl. And to perhaps be chilly in the winter and cool and refreshing in the summer, at least relative to my skin. And to provide drinking water to those that need it, and to eventually mingle with the sea, at least that river. Next is the number 8 is the principle of maturity. The sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. Maturity is that quality of having experience and knowing how to use it. Fortitude is our ability to push through the tough things, the times where we don't want to do something that we know is smart, like saving for retirement, or coming to work when we don't want to, and keeping our nose to the grindstone even though we might not feel like working so hard. all that kind of stuff, and it leads to good ends, at least better ends. And wisdom is the knowledge that we gain through the experience of our mistakes. If you can combine with wisdom and fortitude together, you become a mature individual. Oh, thank you for letting me by. Thanks. Give him a nice wave. You become a mature individual, and it's a powerful thing. Next is social principle, number 9. We're social animals. We need one another to survive, and life is better. I think it's a good use of our time to pursue social ends, doing things for the many, rather than just ourselves or the few. Let me let this bike go by. Oh my gosh, craziness. With a woman on the back, or anybody on the back. So reckless. Next is the Feast of Offal. It's the waste and byproduct of our emotions. And that was an example of it right there. It wasn't the negative emotion, it was the emotion of youth and thrill and, you know, indulging, or lack of temperance. That young man that was on the back of on that motorcycle with his lady friend, and he just giving into it and spewing all that. See, offal doesn't necessarily have to be disgusting. It can also be savory, but it's in an excess. And he just spilled that out for all of us to marvel at his youthful stupidity, and to take that gross risk with himself and another. And so it's one thing to not give that out in the first place, you know, if he could have had the temperance to recognize better, but it's a tough thing, especially for the young. And then another thing to not consume it. Like I won't get too upset. It's outside of my control what he just did there. So I have to exercise apathy. And now moving on to that very one, temperance. Temperance is our controlled consumption of everything: food, drink, work, play, and our emotions as well. Like that young man could have, instead of, you know, feeling the rush of youthful energy and excitement and hitting the throttle accelerator and going flying through those cars like that, he could have exercised a little temperance. Maybe too much to ask of a young person like that, but exercise a little temperance and hold that in for the sake of all of us, and especially for himself and that woman on the back. But it's a tough thing. But when he can, it's a good thing. It takes practice. Sub-principles of temperance are suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Suffering because we suffer when we deny ourselves what we want. You know, it's simplicity because a simple life is a temperate life. It's a good way to make temperance a part of your life by just, by nature, not consuming much. Live in a small house, have small needs, you know, use a simple car or none whatsoever. You know, live a humble life. That's a temperate life. The next is apathy. Apathy is the ability to recognize what's outside of our control and to not let those things bother us. Like if that man had crashed, I mean, I would care. I would go through the motions of acting out, stopping, and assisting them. But I would try to restrain myself from getting overwhelmed by the emotions. It's a difficult thing, and because in some ways it seems inhuman to not want to do that. But I do a better job. I serve them and myself better, and the society in general better, if I can constrain my emotions and my responses to the things that are actually within my control. You know, the ability to make the decision to stop and to help out, and to be a conscientious, caring citizen, and not to be swept away with the emotion of the horror of what I've seen. Yeah, assuming it's a bad accident. Excuse me, I got a cough. Next is the best seat in the house. It's a balancing act to try to be okay with where I am and what I'm doing and who I am, and not to want anything else, while at the same time striving to live a better life for myself and my family and for everyone. You know, it's like wanting and not wanting at the same time. You can do that. I know it because I do it every day, and I'm not bragging. This is just something that comes to practice. It's a strange thing. It's like the sound of one hand clapping. You know, it's kind of nonsense, but in a way, well, that doesn't make any sense. So that's not a good example, but it really can happen. You can be at peace while striving. Yeah, that's a better description. Next is the Path of Wildness. It's a way to get unstuck when you have to make a tough decision in life, to recognize that you need to make that decision, to decide to collect the facts and to allocate some time and a time to make the choice. And when that time comes, if you still need more time, then give yourself more time if you can afford it. And eventually there comes a moment when you say, well, enough's enough. It's just time to make the decision. Otherwise you just go on forever. We do that sometimes to avoid getting, you know, ourselves into a situation that may scare us. You know, like jumping into a new life or a new relationship or some new career, or, you know, whatever the circumstance may be. So if you don't want to do that, then maybe just stop fooling yourself and settle down to the life that is really more suitable to you. But if you really do want to do that, then eventually there comes a time just to make the risk, take the chance. And if you don't have all the facts, then let yourself be informed of your gut. When your gut tells you, when you kind of feel like it's time, I've had enough time, and then go for it. And it may be the wrong thing, but it may be the right thing. But I'll tell you what, if you're such a person that wants that kind of life, the fact that you made a decision, even if it leaves you to poverty or pain or even death, there's something to be had, something to be said for the being a man or woman of action. If you're such a person that wants to be a man or woman of action, even it's only for action for a short time, until you can act no more. Next is the risk of avoiding risk. When we're young, we know that surface level risks are education, finding someone to spend our lives with, a good job, start a family, save our money for retirement, etc., etc. And the funny thing is, though, that we live so long now that we can actually have a long life. You can actually get those things from your 20s, and by your mid-30s you can have all of that. And yet something seems to be missing. Maybe you feel like you missed the boat on something, or maybe you don't. There's a lot of people that feel quite well with that. They're quite content with that, and they would look at a life like the life I've lived, you know, bouncing back and forth between Japan and America for 4 times in 30 years, constantly reinventing our lives. They look at that as a nonsense. What the heck, you know? You're not creating anything. What for me though, it's the renewal. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes over and over again. I love the process. My wife loves the process as well, and Emily seems to enjoy it too. If you're that type of person, then maybe consider allowing that into your life. It's a rare person that can have both. They can gain all the security and have the adventure. It's a worthwhile thing to strive for, and I recommend a good way to do that is to plan it out a little bit and give yourself, for example, in your 20s, the whole decade to yourself. Go as far as you can with education, and then go out and live that adventurous life, whatever it is, whatever constitutes that adventure. Maybe avoid getting too settled in relationships, or definitely avoid getting anyone pregnant until you're really ready to be a parent. And then later, you'll know when it's time. You can settle down and have all that rest. I think you'll be more satisfied in the end. Next is the sin and damnation. There's 5 sins in my world: falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, and dogma. And I always pick one to talk about. Let's go with superstition this time. No, I talked about that last time. Dogma. Dogma is basically truth that relies on its own authority to hold itself up as true. You know, dogma comes typically from religion or religious dogma, political dogma, social dogma. You know, whatever the case may be, and people say, follow this because this is the right thing to do. And I would argue that that's not necessarily a good reason to follow something. It's much better to follow something because it can be demonstrated as true, rather than, under threat or just the statements of authority. So we can recognize dogma when adherents claim that it's true because, well, look at how many people believe, or look how long people have believed this, or this comes from an authority that we cannot question, such as the church or God or the government, things like that. Question all of these things. What's true is what can stand on its own 2 feet. without the support of the mass consensus, or the support of historical precedents, although there is something to that to a degree, but not entirely, or because the masses can be quite wrong for a long time. The next is the consequence, the damnation part, comes from believing things that are not true. And then who wants to spend their life going through their life believing things that are not true? What a waste of time. Even if it gives you comfort, sure, it's comfortable to close our eyes from pretend that death isn't coming, maybe, but not comfortable to me. I'd rather see it coming and plan out my day accordingly. Next is the complete oblivion. When we die, it appears there's no final reunion, no final reconciliation, and no final justice. We're going to be gone. We're going to die absolutely and outright, apparently. I can't say that with absolute certainty, but there's absolutely no reason to think otherwise, and every reason to think that's the case. No one's ever come back, and all the apparatus that appears to hold and instantiate our mind within our bodies is, our brain seems to rot away, and we can also damage the brain, part of the brain, and part of us gets screwed up. And so we're very definitely, we see who we are seems to be connected to our physical selves. When that dies, we know what happens, and I think that's all gone. Until someone can show otherwise, that's the operating principle I'm going to work on. Not completely sure that's the case, but it's all the evidence or lack thereof for anything else seems to indicate that's true. So that means that if I want to, reunite with people that I'm disconnected with, then I better do it now. Speaking of which, I'll give my mom a call tomorrow. And if I want to reconcile our differences, try to do that now. And I'll try to, my mom and I are in pretty good shape right now, but there's always room for work. There's always room for improvement. I'll try to do that tomorrow. Reminder to myself. And if you want to have justice, then seek after that now. It doesn't appear that there's any justice in the nothing of the afterworld. The nothing of the afterworld. There is apparently no afterworld. So there's nothing to be nothing. Next is the great life adventure. I mentioned before about taking the time to have that great adventure in life. I recommend give yourselves the whole decade of your 20s, like I said. Go as far as for the education, have that adventure, and then come back and start with the serious business. I think you'll be glad you did. And you can also pepper your life with great life's adventures along the way. I try to have one every 2 weeks for 1 or 2 days, all by myself out in the wilderness. It does wonders for the sense of satisfied life. That's because I'm so inclined to do that. So next, if you're inclined to something different, then find out what that is. Pursue that. Next is the season of philosophy. It's a time to record what we've learned along the way and to set that down. If for anything, maybe for your descendants. Or maybe imagine your great grandson or daughter picking up your journal and thumbing through it. Wouldn't you love to have that chance now? I have my great-great-grandfather, Justy. I would love to know what he had to say, or my great-great-grandmother, or any of them at all, but he really didn't write anything down. So I don't know. And maybe if you've got something interesting to say, maybe that'll get shared elsewhere as well. But I don't recommend doing it for that reason. I recommend doing it for the simple sake that this is your story, and why not spend some time getting it out? So when the muse speaks in your mind, get out the pen and paper, or the camera, or the recorder, or the art, and the easel, or whatever the case may be, and sit down what you hear it in your mind. It's not some mystical thing. It's just your imagination and your creativity speaking out loud in your mind. Next is that's it. The last one is arena and utility. All of this whole life is a great arena for the development of your principles and objectives and the execution of them upon this canvas of life. Each of the principles that I just mentioned hang like a tool on my waist, and the more I talk about them, especially the more I make these videos and upload them, the more at the ready they're there. They're just there in a moment's notice when I need them. I'm in a meeting and suddenly I need temperance to control my emotions about when maybe the meeting's going south and it's my fault, or maybe I need a little bit of apathy when the rain starts coming down on the freeway and I'm getting soaked, but there's not much I can do about that. Or maybe I need to think more socially when I'm trying to pick out what my goals are for the immediate day or the week, and maybe it's possible I can move my energies towards more social good, like this little project I mentioned earlier. It's kind of a side project that I did, and I'm trying to do it for the betterment of my organization, which benefits a lot of people, which will benefit a lot of people in the county where I work. Little things like that. Well, that's it, actually. So there's my good life meditation. So I think I finished before the got off the freeway. My off ramp is right up there. So anyway, take care, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Make today a great day and have a good life. Take care. Bye-bye.